Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the ESL Hearthstone Legendary Series. My name is T. Osmond McCuny-Sanders, and I'm joined with Dan, the Frodan Cho. And we're about to jump into the second semifinal of the day. Of Group D of the Redemption Tournament. It is going to be between Ostkaka and Liimujx.
That's right. That's right. I'm pretty hyped up. I'm intense after that commercial.
Yeah.
I feel very
You feel like slaying dragons?
Well, I'm going to climb a mountain first and then slay the dragon.
Okay.
With my mind.
Your mind is powerful.
With only my mind. Nothing else.
Thanks for the clarification.
And I'm not going to even be holding a dragon as I slay the dragon. Because I wouldn't make a mechanic like that with my weapon.
You are G1.
I'm F1.
Yeah. Well, the winner of this moves on to face Tom60229 in the final match of the day. And that matchup would determine the player who goes on, the 8th player and the final player of the Redemption Tournament to go on to the Season 2 Legendary Series LAN Finals.
That's right. Ostkaka, one of the best players in ladder, I believe. I heard a statistic thrown out here back in the C-Story Cup. According to Blizzard, he is the most winning player on ladder. If you cross-reference number of games played versus one, if you measure a threshold amongst the highest percentage of qualified players, he is the best ladder player in the world.
Yeah. That's really impressive stuff.
Yeah, it's quite the statistic.
Ostkaka, of course, means cheesecake in Swedish. And I actually read the entire Wikipedia page about Swedish cheesecake this morning in preparation.
In Swedish?
In classic TJ preparation.
In Swedish?
No, in English.
Oh. Well, that's...
Swedish
I don't
cheesecake.
think you understand what it means. I think something's lost in the translation.
You know, Dan, Swedish cheesecake is not like American cheesecake.
Oh, it's not?
No, it's not layered. So you know how there's
a
graham cracker crust or some type of crust on cheesecake?
And it's amazing.
Yeah. No, Swedish cheesecake is it's just like Swedish curd cake that's baked.
Oh.
And then you just put jam on top of it. I mean, it's probably similar in taste, but different in texture, and it's not layered.
I don't know. The texture means a lot to me for cheesecake.
Does it? It means a lot to me for a lot of things. Shirts, blankets, cheesecake.
Girlfriends.
Yep.
Warlock versus the Hunter. This is going to start off. Now, this is the first time we're seeing Ostkaka today. I'm not sure exactly what is going to be coming out of his department. We're about to find out. And it looks like Ostkaka is going to go with the Zoo. Zoo against mid-range Hunter. This is 2015, guys, I promise. This looks like I guess outside of that Dark Bomb, but if you looked about a year ago, it'd be kind of similar to what you'd see now.
Yeah. Now, Ostkaka actually has the worst record out of all 32 players that participated in the Legendary Series this season. 0-6.
0-6?
Did not win a single game.
Kaka.
Yeah. Nothing. Don't look at me like that. Yeah. So
Flame Imp into Knife Juggler is pretty powerful. If you want to set up a good implosion. What do you want to say, TJ?
Nothing.
Okay.
I was going to say he was the quickest player to be eliminated out of any week.
Oh, gotcha. I understand.
Yeah.
Yo entiendo. Look at that. And I didn't have to read any Wikipedia articles to know what that meant.
Most of my knowledge.
Fire.
This is...
Is this aggressive version of the Zoo?
It could be. We saw a Chalky run. Yeah, it had the Dark Bomb. So the only piece that we're missing here is Arcane Golems and Wolf Riders. The deck actually worked out super well for Chalky. He took second in the Redemption Tournament on Friday in Group B.
A lot of what cost him was the Rogue deck in the end. It ended up having a pretty subpar win rate across the board. He had to play many games with it. In fact, one series he won with it barely. He lost twice. And in the third series, he ended up losing twice with it, or 3 times with it.
Yeah. Stranglethorn Tiger.
Oh, interesting.
Ice Fat. That's the player.
Oh.
One of the players that posted in the competitive Hearthstone subreddit. And he
I don't
actually
know why, but whenever you say that, It makes me feel like that's how you're trying to like rhyme or something.
No, he actually posted in the chat the other day. One of our producers sent me a screenshot of Iced Fat. I hope TJ says my name again in Twitch chat. Iced Fat said that.
Oh, I thought they sent you a picture of.
They sent me a screenshot.
Of fat in like a cup that's frozen.
That was speaking?
That you said, yeah. You said they sent me a picture of iced fat. And I was like, oh.
The person, yeah.
But then you paused for like 2 seconds, TJ. Timing.
Dramatic.
Dramatic pause. So he tests to see if this is explosive trap, but it sees it's snake trap instead. Have to fight back on the board.
Yeah,
I'm trying to avoid activating that snake trap at all costs. Fortunately for him, he's got a card called Implosion, which is great against fighting against snakes and traps.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to set up Imp Gang Boss instead? No, I think Implosion might be better because you can guarantee to get the pick off on the freezing trap, so that way the imps will get returned to your hand, and then you even also can fight back a little bit on the board for snake traps.
Yeah, I think you need to deal with those traps as quick as possible.
Right. Does that mean this Flame Imp doesn't really do much? Like it just kind of sits here this turn?
Yeah, well, it's still going to be a body eventually.
If you get 2 imps off the Implosion, and say you hit the web spinner, then you can guarantee get yourself the pop on the freezer trap. So this was the worst case scenario, and he planned for it. If you feel like you're really good at Hearthstone and you want to roll 3 or higher, you can aim for the Haunted Creeper.
Yeah. Well, the Houndmaster Haunted Creeper.
Oh my! He willingly trades into the Flame Imp here. That's interesting.
It's interesting because.
Oh! 4. Well,
Esports!
Well, come on. Let's be real. It actually averaged out to 3.
Yeah.
2 to 4. It might as well just said deal 3 each time.
Yeah.
Would have been almost the same, except they would have attacked. And of course, if you were Ostkaka, the preference would be to have it done the opposite way. 4 first, 2 now.
Why would he attack into that Flame Imp? Why do you think?
He's afraid of. He's got to be afraid of.
Defender Vargas?
Defender Vargas or Direwolf Alpha or some kind of adjacent thing to really make his life complicated. And at this point, you're really not going to win on the snake trap fight, and your opponent might even just be attacking face every single time.
Hey, Dan.
Yo.
Web Spinner got the Beast.
Yeah. The Beast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to see the Beast played. I think we're going to see Animal Companion, Abusive Sergeant, Web Spinner before we see the Beast.
Yeah. But it got the Beast.
I will willing to say the Beast has a 0% chance of being played before the rest of the hand is played.
It's a bold statement, but I like your style. Stranglethorn Tiger, of course. I know a lot about this card.
You know a lot about this card?
I do. It's a 5/5. When you play it on the board, it has stealth. And
it's a beast also. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, it is a beast.
The important thing about the Stranglethorn Tiger is that it's sort of like guaranteed latent damage that hides behind stealth.
Mm-hmm.
You can synergize it with a Houndmaster that sort of curves out okay better if you play it, and then you Houndmaster, you still have 2 mana to do something else, like a quick shot or a hero power.
Yeah.
And then it also makes sure that kill command in your hand can get live without losing too much tempo by holding a beast in your hand.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good mixture of in the middle of the road. The only thing is that sometimes Lotheb's just better, so that way you can accomplish what you have on the board already.
Yeah.
And then there's also this scenario where you know, you might want to play Sludge Belcher because it's better against aggro. Tiger doesn't actually stop your opponent from racing you that well.
Yeah.
Like in this scenario, Tiger feels like it's kind of meh, right?
Yeah. In a lot of matchups, it helps a lot though. In Patron Warrior especially.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. This is a great target for Houndmaster buff for patrons to not get through it.
Yeah. It is vulnerable to BGH once you get Houndmastered, but I mean that's a risk you're willing to take because you're not playing it on the board as a 7/7. You're still going to get that 7 damage out of it regardless. Hello. That's a lot of pounds.
He gets the Liimujx. Well, Liimujx doesn't really matter too much other than just straight damage.
And Liimujx would be a ridiculous amount of face damage. That would have been 15 damage. You would have put him at 4. No, he would have had to throw one hound in. He would have put him at 6.
Right. I mean, he's still going to put a lot of damage out.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps just a couple, like 2 things on the board.
Taps because there's nothing else to do here, but it looks like Ostkaka is just pretty much dead. Snake Trap only gives 1, but there's no way for him to really stabilize this. You can't get rid of that Tiger. Doesn't have a defender of Argus. And so he's going to tap out. Liimujx wins game 1. And Ostkaka, his losing streak continues here.
Yeah, 0-7 now so far in the Legendary Series. And he's brought a pretty standard lineup from what we've seen. Warrior, Warlock, Druid.
Yep.
Liimujx is switching things up a bit. I still think that Hunter is actually really strong right now. And I think all the players that have brought Hunter over the past couple of days have had a lot of success. 2 of the players that brought Hunter yesterday lost before they even brought the Hunter out. So it's like, I don't know. I don't understand why more people aren't bringing it.
I think, well, one, Hunter is kind of going through an identity crisis right now. Face Hunter has weak percentages across the board because so many classes are well equipped at defeating it. Plus, its game plan has been exposed so much that people have optimized how to play against it. A good example of why Face Hunter fell off was the same reason why Oil Rogue just fell off in popularity. People started realizing how much burst can come out from Rogue, what you need to be actually doing against the board. Killing out Violet Teacher is a priority, or when you keep Violet Teacher alive so that Oil becomes less chance, etc. Then the Oil Rogue drops in percentages a lot.
Yeah.
Mid-range Hunter, in the meantime, gets punished a little bit, but it's still pretty decent against Druid and Handlock and a couple of other classes. But it just gets wrecked so hard by things like Oil Rogue and the Grim Patron Warrior.
Yeah.
I personally think it's fine.
Hunter?
Yeah, no, Hunter's. Yeah. It's in a really good spot. The Hybrid Hunter is really powerful, although sometimes I just like run into the most wild things on ladder, and I just lose to it.
Yeah.
Like I was playing a Mech Shaman that happened to have Hex and Lightning Storm, but everything else is the same. Like Whirling Zapomatics, Fell Reavers, Doom Hammers. I was like, what did you take out?
There's a couple of cards that you can take out.
For Hex and Lightning Storm, it was so weird. I just was not anticipating at all.
No.
Probably took out Lava Burst or something like that.
I saw you queuing up the mid-range Shaman, and I tweeted out, I said, everybody that's at rank, whatever Broden is right now, put Hex and Lightning Storm into your Mech Shaman decks to completely counter him.
That explains it, DJ. You are very influential.
Yeah. I would say so. All right, Druid versus Warlock. Ostkaka seems to be standard mid-range Druid. Liimujx, as we saw earlier, it is going to be sort of the Demon Handlock hybrid. He does run Void Callers. He does run Mal'Ganis, Dread Infernal, Draxus. I don't remember if he ran Mountain Giants or not, but I'd imagine he cut those for the Void Callers. There are cuts you can make elsewhere, like with your AoE spells or some of your early game spells. But I think he cut the Mountain Giants.
Yeah, the Draxus is pretty fundamental for a Demon Lock, and starting off with the Twilight Drake is great. Sludge Belcher guarantees that you have a curve. Ostkaka, in the meantime, we have to identify if, what exactly spices this Druid up. We know the basics. The Ancient of Lore. I mean, those are 4 cards you probably would usually see in a Druid deck, almost in every type. What really starts flavoring is like, does he have Ancient of Wars? Does he have the opportunity to go for any real weird tech cards? Harrison Jones was one of them. Maybe he has something else. One thing that I got a little sad that we have stopped seeing was I thought people were going to start gravitating towards mind control techs, and I think they're really fun to watch. I hate having them played against me, or vice versa. I hate playing with them.
Most popular arena players, like Ratsma and Hafu, think mind control tech is overpowered in arena.
It's just really good. It just stops board development in the same way it punishes people for developing the board, like Unleash the Hounds did. But then they found out that you can interact with it as long as you just play around it.
A random Twitch viewer in Rotsmo's chat, I will not give credit to anybody because I have no idea, said that what if Mind Control Tech, instead of putting the creature onto your board when you stole it, put it into your hand?
Oh, that's interesting. For sure.
I really like that idea. I think it's not quite as swingy.
Definitely makes it worse, and it's not even played that much in Constructed, but we'll see. Maybe it makes it even better because you get the battle cry, though.
Yeah. And it's not quite as immediate impact on the board, so it depends on the card.
7 mana available to Ostkaka. You can put out that Dr. Boom that you just drew. Ancient of Lore is more consistent with his draws, so that way you can continue to put on pressure. As the Druid player, you're trying to find ways to end the game, and drawing into your Savage Roar would be the key. I would not be upset by going for Dr. Boom, though. That is the strongest tempo play you can make. Just by straight up damage and board presence and controlling the board. If his opponent played Big Game Hunter, he'd have to have Mortal Coil and Big Game Hunter, and you'd still have a 1-1 remaining. That's how powerful it would be. Not to mention that Dr. Boom comes out ahead of the Twilight Drake or the Mountain Giant, so you can answer it.
Yeah. That's actually... If he had a keeper here, this game would be really tough for Liimujx. Just because there's no answer for that Dr. Boom. He could have like keepered and thrown a Dark Bomb in. It'd be really sad to see that right now. Such a power play. And Ostkaka actually curves out quite nicely. He does have BGH to answer Giants, but of course, don't think there's Giants in this deck.
Where shall I strike?
But I'm not sure if he probably watched earlier. Whoa, going face.
Yeah, there's no reason why you should try bother trading with the Drake. It's just gonna make it awkward and inefficient with the Boombot damage. Void Caller is optimistic. He's really hoping this Boombot lands on the Void Caller for 4 damage.
That is incredibly optimistic. And he goes face for 3.
No, he's dead.
Wow.
GG.
The game is over just like that. That's ridiculous.
I know you're excited, TJ, but I think that was really sloppy play. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's really optimistic to try expect those things happening, but it could be one of those things where you're expecting to lose anyways because Dr. Boom got so far ahead and did 14+ damage to you that you just give up. But there were many other plays that you could have explored.
Sludge Belcher.
Sludge Belcher, you know, at least the T-Kill bot.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, let me Mortal Coil and try to see if this goes hit the 1 and 3 and then the 1 and 4 in that to get Mal'Ganis so I can maybe challenge it. But even if he got Mal'Ganis, it just trades into Dr. Boom. Dr. Boom gets like an easy kill.
Yeah. And
so it's one of those things where it's like, I think he conceded essentially. And the reason why, you know, maybe I chose a little bit too harsh of a word, said sloppy, but it's like if you lose with this deck, you're gonna have to play it again. So you don't want to show information. So don't toss it out there unnecessarily and just make like a bad play if that's the case. Unless he legitimately thought it was a good play, and then there's a lot of like lines of thought with it, and I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think the only line of thought is hoping he doesn't have direct damage and or hoping that the bomb hits, which is very unlikely.
Right, but there's a lot of other stuff. There's Savage Roar. There's you know, just a straight up force of nature.
He needed 2 damage.
Yeah,
he could have Keeper the Grove to the face.
To the face.
Yeah,
would have been fine.
Yeah,
yeah. No heal, no taunt defensiveness, no removal played. It's just not very strong at that scenario.
Yeah. Well, both players have Warlock remaining. Ostkaka has Warrior, and Liimujx has Rogue. So we are going to see Warlock versus Warlock, but it's nowhere near a mirror match because Liimujx, of course, has the Demon Handlock. Ostkaka does have the Zoo Warlock. Now, I'm not as sure with this one. Traditionally, Handlock has a decent matchup against Zoo. But this isn't a traditional Handlock. In a sense, what do you think about Demon Handlock as opposed to like more Mountain Giant?
Right. I think there's some scenarios where it can be better, but for the most part, the ones with Mountain Giants are just way better at handling the aggression, because you generally have a lot more ways to interact with the board, right? Because you're playing like the ones with Mountain Giants nowadays. I believe play double Mortal Coils.
Yeah.
Which are really big against Zoo. They play double Hellfire, they play double Shadow Flames.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the Demon Lock deck, but if it plays similar to that, then I think it's fine.
This one plays double Mortar Coil, but I think it only plays... we've only seen one of each of the AoE spells.
Right.
Which are actually a pretty big deal. Because if you get to a point where you don't draw into like a Hellfire or Shadow Flame when you need it,
Yeah.
it can be pretty rough.
The one thing that is nice about Demon Lock is that you generally have better uses for cards. Like Void Caller, for example, is always going to be live over Mountain Giants. And then you have Implosion, I believe, in this deck. Implosion is really effective against fighting back for the board, too.
Yeah.
So there are tools available, and it's not impossible by any means. In fact, I think that Demon Lock is slightly favored if you play it optimally and you get good draws.
Mm. Well,
Or actually, probably really favored if you get the good draws. But
Liimujx does pick up Shadow Flame, so he has AoE available.
do you develop the egg or the? I guess Hunter Keeper is just more damage. If you want the most damage, you play Flame It, but that fills out the curve for the following turns. Generally speaking, you want to play the highest mana as much as possible, even if you fill in the mana. Like, if you had 2 1-drops, you'd still go for the 2-drop, just so that you can play those 1 mana minions when it fills in, as opposed to...
More flexible.
Yeah.
My eyes are open.
Red the Ring Farseer will trade into Knife Juggler.
This is like an argument for the Haunted Creeper, because it does more damage, it stabilizes the board, and also gives you potentially more juggles. But I wouldn't beat myself up if I was Ostkaka. I think you can just trade and play the Imp Gang boss. Or maybe you can play Imp Gang boss first to see if you juggle.
I wonder.
There's no way you can actually kill off this Farseer just through sheer Knife Juggler RNG.
Unless you
Should
tap
I
into like
tap?
Abusive Sergeant.
Powerful.
But even that would be... Abusive Sergeant would only do 2 damage. You'd have to rely on the juggle, hitting the Earth Ring Farseer once the Nerubian spawned. I just like the Imp Gang boss play.
Yeah. Imp Gang boss seems to be the most resilient to stuff.
I guess you're not too worried about like Hellfire, because you're protecting the board with
Wow. Those are perfect juggles. Going straight to the face.
perfect juggles.
He juggled that perfectly. He needed precisely those 2 hits to kill me. There was nothing I could do.
Dan is the master of
This
copy
guy's
pasta.
RNG is crazy. Yeah, man. I've memorized a lot of the bosses. It became one of those things. Some people, you know, they remember important historical events. Other people can recite pi to the 1000th digit. Me? I remember the dank memes.
It's a valuable skill. You're a living,
I actually
walking
do write
meme.
on my resume. I know you're kind of like mocking me right now, but please refrain from triggering me. Silence conveniently onto that Twilight Drake and dealing 6 damage. And that is one of the hardest boards to AoE that I've seen in a while. Well, he did pop the Haunted Creeper. I guess it would have been harder.
You can AoE over 2 turns.
Insta call the Void Caller, which summons another Void Caller. And this is because his opponent just used an Ironbeak Owl. Ostkaka gets a Implosion, so I think he can start interpreting whether or not his opponent has AoE to clear the board. But he does have Shadow Flame and Hellfire. Shadow Flame would not be live because he doesn't have a minion. And that'd be coming next turn. Hellfire would probably have been played, but he had Twilight Drake, which makes sense. Followed up by a Void Caller. So if Ostkaka's dialed in, he might feel like, well, he has AoE. I better save this Implosion until after AoE.
Mm-hmm.
Or he could be trying to raise damage and say, I don't care if you have AoE. I'm just going to try to raise as much damage as possible.
Why would he even trade in here if he wants to use Implosion? Because for every 1/1 that you trade in, that's like 1 damage that you're wasting anyway.
Right.
Because you're effectively just throwing the 1/1s into nothing.
That's a lot of damage. 3, 5, 7, 8, 12 next turn. And if the Nerubian pops out, that's a really big deal too.
Not going to hold back at all here. Can't really afford to when you're playing Zoo against Handlock, unless you know you have a lot of bursts from your hand, but...
Oh man, that's That's a pretty decent draw, actually. The only problem is that he doesn't have Molten Giant to pair with it. The second Iron Beak Owl is really useful to make sure that he can handle anything else coming out in the future, Defender Vargas. But he's got a pretty nice board clear here. Oh, nope, just a little bit short, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah. Just a tiny bit short. So he ends up Shadow Flaming the 2/1 instead. He doesn't have a good demon. Yeah. But you're not even at lethal yet, so.
He's not even.
Not even at lethal.
I don't even.
Okay.
Whoa!
Now we're talking.
All right.
Now we are talking.
What do we got? A 1 and 3?
Yes. It's either that or you implosion, but I think you just go for it. Ah! Are you serious?
Wow.
Come on.
That is brutal. That's like 4 times in a row.
Okay.
Almost.
Okay. There has to be something up with that. Like, there's just no way, right?
The law of Soulfires.
I refuse to believe that just happened.
Yeah.
And, like, if that ends up being the reason Liimujx wins this game.
Chucky is the only player.
Wow! There it is.
Justice.
Yeah.
Liimujx, he looks a little bit frustrated, but he kind of got a life that he didn't even deserve in the first place.
Well, you came crashing down hard on that sentence.
I didn't really know what to say besides deserve, but that sounds really brutal.
It's fine. Just say justice and just let it go.
Liimujx, you deserve
Yeah.
all the wins that you get, my friend.
The Dark Bomb was a really important draw, but, like, you have to imagine the thing, like, I got unlucky with the Soulfire, I got lucky with the draw. One of those things where it kind of didn't matter, but it was always fun to see that. I have a question, TJ. Do you ever think that it's like, you know, it's technically still random if you select from a pool, like a jar of candies?
Yeah.
Or like, you know, like the NBA draft lottery, for example. It's still random who wins the draft pick, but it's weighted towards the teams that do worse.
Yeah.
So I really wonder if it's still truly random, or if Blizzard's like, you know what, it's truly random, but if another Soulfire's in it, we'll make it like a bump up like an extra few percentage points, but it's still random. Because I feel that way about ridiculous cards like Lorewalker Cho and what's the other one? Doomsayer. And Mana Ray, like the really problematic 2-drops off the Podger. I'm like, well, maybe it's not 1.4%. Maybe it's like 3%.
Yeah.
And everything else is just bumped down a little bit.
I identify better with candy.
This is my. I'm putting my
than the
tinfoil hat
NBA.
on and putting a conspiracy theory because this is completely not true, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that random to me, TJ.
Okay. Well, we've actually seen 5 Soulfires. Okay, this is a statistic.
Yeah.
5 Soulfires used when another Soulfire was in the hand. 4 of which discard another Soulfire.
Right.
4 of those were either 1 and 3 or less. So 1 and 3, 1 and 2. And then one of them was a 1 and
7.
Yeah, I thought it was a 1 and 8.
Or 1 and 8.
1 and 8 or 1 and 7. 3 of those happened to Lead Paint. And Lead Paint, all of which he discarded second Soulfire. One of them happened to Chucky. And Chucky was the only player to defy the laws of the Soulfire and discarded something else. And then, of course, we just saw Ostkaka, who was denied of a very juicy lethal.
Yeah.
But
We
a
ended
law
up
of
getting
Soulfire.
anyways. So you're just not even going to address my conspiracy. It's cool.
No, I think it's a valid concern. That's all I'm giving.
Blizzard, hire this man.
Well, we're moving on.
Ostkaka has 1 class remaining. It's Warrior. Warrior versus Rogue.
Grim Patient Warrior, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, but if he's wrong, and if you're wrong and if Liimujx is wrong, he just walked into a bad matchup. If this is Control Warrior, he just willingly took on Oil Rogue versus Control Warrior.
There's always the argument that you got to win with everything anyway, Dan.
Yeah, that's true.
So you might as well just play whatever you feel like. But yeah, you're right. This is Control Warrior. And it's not. Commanding Shout.
All right.
My man.
So somehow Liimujx was able to predict the Grand Patron Warrior correctly. It's one of those things where if you're right, you look really smart. If you're wrong, you look a little silly. But in this case, Liimujx looks really smart.
I like Commanding Shout almost as much as I like Cheesecake. And that's a lot.
Okay, well, you didn't really you didn't quantify that sentence. You know, TJ, I don't know if you like cheesecake or not.
Do you like cheesecake?
I love cheesecake. Cheesecake is my jam.
I have to clarify, Swedish cheesecake or American cheesecake?
Well, I haven't had Swedish cheesecake, so I don't know if I like it or not.
Neither have I. But I'm a visual, what do they call that?
Learner?
Not learner, but
Eater? Because I'm an oral eater. That's how I eat.
that sounds so dirty.
Through my ears.
I don't even know how to respond to that. But yeah, I said after reading the entire Wikipedia page about Swedish cheesecake earlier, I felt like I was tasting it, you know? Like those Wikipedia writers, they know how to get to me.
TJ's actually trying. He's been telling me that he's been trying to, get back in the fitness train and whatnot. He's been running like miles every day. I didn't know it got that bad. That you're reading Wikipedia entry articles about cheesecake that you feel like you can taste it.
Mm-hmm. Fun fact,
that is
Dan.
a brutal life, man.
The only reason why I run multiple miles every single day is so I can eat lots of cheesecake when I get back home. But
orally.
Orally, yeah. I take my cheese. I can't even say it.
Then say it in Swedish, using Ostkaka. He has the Death Bite, which is important to shut down the Violet Teacher, one of the most important cards to fight against a deck that normally combos, but against a deck that primarily draws this much off of their Acolytes.
Well, hello there.
Battle Rage into the Execute. That is great.
Yes.
Value Rage. And that is not what Liimujx wanted to see. He's going to have to play Violet Teacher number 2. He's going to get some more bad news that it gets chopped down immediately. Unless he wants to play Pilot Shredder.
This is a very creature-heavy hand, which I think is a good thing.
You don't like creature-heavy hands?
Well, sometimes spell-heavy hands are good.
Gotcha.
There are some matchups. I think Zoo is a good matchup to have a spell-heavy hand. Even like Priest. You want certain spells, like you want Sprint in your early hand. Just because the game is going to be slow, you know it is. Yeah. You have a lot of time to draw on a thing. But especially considering some of your creatures are liabilities later on. Like Violet Teacher, I'm not sure how good that would be putting down later in the game with Grim Patron, because you don't want to use spells, because those 1/1 tokens are just the prime targets for those Grim Patrons to reproduce.
He's got Azure Drake as well, by the way. Azure Drake was like first being experimented by guys like Fu Oliver back in China, but eventually it just felt like No Mission Inventor did everything better. It fit like the charge of the Warsong Commander. It got the draw on a curve because the 4-mana slot really has nothing else except Deathbite. Azure Drake is a little clunky, so he has 2 of them. That makes it really interesting. It feels like this is very cycle-oriented.
Yeah.
And very all-in on a huge combo of the Grim Patron. I have to imagine he doesn't run cards like Slam. Mm-hmm. He has to be running Inner Rage, because that's what Azure Drake really thrives on, like an Azure Drake Inner Rage play.
Also Whirlwind. Control Warriors actually used to put Azure Drake in their decks.
He might be running only one...
I wonder.
Only one... not Battle Rage. Only one... What card am I thinking of? Armor Smiths.
Okay, yeah.
Armor Smiths definitely are more optional, so to speak.
Yeah.
Especially if everyone's running Handlock. What's an Armor Smith going to do?
Yeah. Armor Smith is stronger on the ladder because you face more cards like Hunter and Zoo, where sometimes an Armor Smith on turn 1, or even like Freeze Mage, when Freeze Mage was popular, it was another win condition where you can get ridiculous amounts of armor. But I do agree that It's not quite as good.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially since Commanding Shout's so good. You can take in an Armor Smith, plop in a Commanding Shout, and all of a sudden your hand lock win rate improves by like 10%.
Yeah.
Which is
fair.
pretty significant.
Well, you've got so many cards as the Rogue. You'd like to start shutting down the board a little bit. There's not really that many clean plays that I see right now. Everything involves a little bit of like either floating a mana or your opponent ends up having a minion on board, which is not preferable.
You can Loatheb and Deadly Poison.
Loatheb is still kind of meh because the opponent's coming on turn 7, right? It's like you want to shut him down before you can start doing like big combos with the Whirlwinds on Grim Patron turns.
Yeah.
I guess it's still his best course of action. I guess Violet Teacher doesn't really have anything to do.
Violet Teacher, I don't know. It might like not come down. When are you going to use Violet Teacher? Just as a 3/5 and not use any spells?
Could be. When your opponent plays Loatheb or something.
Yeah.
No way, though. Not in this deck. A lot of cycle again. But the important thing is that Ostkaka going to be shutting down this Loatheb and setting up the Death Bite, which is so scary. Not to mention, this does end up being relevant, but there's a lot of pecking damage being done by the Gnomish Inventor. Just like constantly nibbling away at the health. That's like the second or third attack it's done.
Yeah.
And that starts adding up because as soon as Ostkaka gets things like Commanding Shout, and with the whatever minion he ends up using it with, either Grim Patron or Frothing Berserker, there is going to be some major wombo combo.
Oh, yeah. So he needs to like set up his turn. Liimujx here. Not only does he need to address what's on the board, but he needs to like set up a turn, next turn, to deal with crazy shenanigans with Deathbite. So like set up a weapon here. Make sure that you are in a comfortable position to be able to Blade Flurry any possible threats.
But he's playing so conservative. Like, Oil Rogue's supposed to benefit off of grabbing tempo. And if you play really conservative in general, you're just giving a lot of time for the warrior to accumulate their combo. I would actually recommend that rogues have to look at this similar to how they look at the Miracle Mirror.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, whoever was able to dictate the health and the tempo of the board was able to really snowball that to a victory. And sure, you're really afraid of the Grim Patron, but like that Violet Teacher there sat for a long time. Just, I mean, why not put the Violet Teacher just as a 3/5 instead of a 3/3 here?
Yeah, that SI agent, his battle cry did damage to the face.
Yeah.
So
you might need that on a Grim Patron for that's a 3/2.
Yeah, and Violet Teacher, SI agent I think is even a more flexible card as the game goes on because that extra 2 damage could be the difference between cleaning up like a Frothing Berserker or a Grim Patron.
What this does do with the SI7 is keep Violet Teacher for a post, like he can Violet Teacher flurry if his opponent just decided to go off on this turn.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine so. Just 2 Frothing Berserkers. He just needs to hit Thorson and get a really cheap hand with all these crazy combos. 2 Inner Rages. Is that a full 10 hand? No, it's not. So he can just pass and let his opponent deal with this Drake.
He might be setting up like a 1-turn kill.
Next turn, he's got 2 Frothing Berserkers.
Warsong Commander.
And a Warsong Commander. So Frothing Berserker by itself is base 4 damage. Each Inner Rage
is 3.
Is 3, but the other Berserker gets a
so 4.
So it's 8 damage.
So many
so that's 4 plus 8 is 12, plus this attack from the weapon is 16. And
the Whirlwind effect would be at least 3.
Oh, at least 3.
For each.
For each, that's 6.
So
So that's
22.
22. That's what it is. Oh my god.
Wow.
Ostkaka has actually calculated lethal for next turn based off that.
Holy bejeebus.
That's assuming he sees that. And that's assuming his opponent doesn't heal this turn. But how can you make that assumption? I guess you can because your opponent's holding a bajillion cards.
Yeah.
I may or may not have ballparked that number of cards.
It's at least one card.
If Liimujx doesn't play the Antique Healbot, he dies. That is game over. Ostkaka is going to the finals. Doesn't matter if he prep eviscerates.
That's got to be exact lethal, right? You could. Ostkaka's calculating the damage in his hand, and is he not even?
All right.
He didn't even clear the Azure Drake, so that's 4 damage overkill.
Yeah, that's plenty.
That's even more than 4 damage overkill because we didn't calculate the fact that there'd be
2 minions surviving on top.
Yeah.
There's just way too much damage.
This is 26 plus an extra 4 damage. That's 30 damage that he could do.
All right, well, Liimujx gave it his best effort, but this rogue got outpaced way too easily by the card draw, and Ostkaka bowls over the oil rogue.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. So that's going to mean Ostkaka versus Tom 60229, 2 very strong players trying to fight for a ticket to California from different corners of the world. A great ending to that series. Really fun stuff. I really like Patron Warrior. I know a lot of people still, are getting used to the fact that it's a viable combo deck that's cheap and hard to play, but get over it, nerds. It's a sick deck. I love it.
That wasn't even Patron Warrior. That was Deathspite Frothing Berserker Warrior.
Right, that's true. No Grim Patron in that whatsoever. It was just straight up Warsong Commander. This is what happens when you fix the card that everyone wants to play with. It's fun stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, the threat of Grim Patrons forces people to play differently around cards like Frothing Berserker. So,
was there any card in that involved any Blackrock Mountain in that game from the Warriors side? I don't believe
I don't think so. No. So it's just a classic deck?
So it's just a classic deck that people somehow found works okay.
And you think even if he had prepped, eviscerated the Azure Drake, he still would have died.
That's right.
So pretty crazy stuff. But we are moments away from jumping into the final. But let's take a look at the bracket one more time and what we've seen today. In the first semifinal, we saw Maz lose to Tom 60229, 3-1. So he qualified for the final there. And Ostkaka just took out Liimujx 3-1 as well. So the final is set. Tom 60229, the Taiwanese player versus Ostkaka, Swedish player named after a delectable Swedish delicacy. And I think it's going to be a pretty good final. It's
going to be a great final. I think both these players are high caliber players. I could imagine them even going really far in the actual lane itself. So I'm looking forward to it.
Alrighty, well, the final of the Redemption Tournament Group D and the final of the Redemption Tournament in general, we will crown the 8th player who will be joining us at the Season 2 Legendary Series LAN Finals. Ostkaka versus Tom 60229 right after this break.
None shall pass.